breakfast. The pig would probably die anyway.
What if I'd been real small, Fred? Would you have killed me?
A girl is one thing, a pig is another.
Please, Papa, please, let me keep him.
All right, but just for a little while. You can keep him long enough to see what trouble a pig can be.
Oh, thank you, Papa, thank you. Can I have a pig too, Pop?
One month later, Fern and her father are sitting in the kitchen. Next to Fern is the now healthy runt named Wilbur.
Fern, it's time for the pig to go. You can't have a 200-pound pet in this house.
No, Papa, no, I've taken such good care of him. You can't do this to me or him.
All right. In the morning, we'll take Wilbur to Uncle Homer's. That way, if he takes Wilbur, he'll be right across the street, and you can see him whenever you want. How does that sound?
The plan worked, and the next morning, Fern solemnly took Wilbur to Homer Zuckerman's farm.
Want a friend, Wilbur? I'll be your friend.
Lucifer, where are you?
Salutations. Salutations. That's a fancy way of saying hello. My name is Charlotte, and as I said, I'll be your friend.
Oh, thank you, Charlotte.
Hey, Wilbur, have you figured out why they're rounding you up yet? They're planning to kill you and turn you into bacon.
I want to die.
Wilbur, quiet down. You're not going to die.
But who's going to save me?
I am, Wilbur.
But how?
I'm going to think of something. But in the meantime, I want you to get plenty of sleep and stop worrying.
Oh, thank you, Charlotte. I think you're beautiful. Good night.
At last, Charlotte thought of a way to save Wilbur. In the middle of her web, she wove the words, "some pig." The Zuckerman's hired hand walked into the barn and thought that he was seeing things. He called Uncle Homer, who joined him in standing there in utter amazement. Wilbur was pleased. One farmer came from 30 miles away just to see him.
One day, the Arables decided to enter Wilbur for a prize at the county fair. Wilbur didn't get first prize, but still, Uncle Homer won $25. It was a happy time, except that Wilbur noticed how weak and tired Charlotte looked. She was exhausted, because not only had she done that special weaving, but she had also built a sack to hold her eggs. She explained to him that she knew she would die soon, so she wouldn't be going back to the farm. But all the same, she said she was at peace, because she knew that now Wilbur would always be safe. So Wilbur went home alone, carrying her egg sack in his mouth.
Charlotte did die, right near the Ferris wheel. But in the meantime, dozens and dozens of her own little spiders were born in the barn, 514 to be exact. 3 of them became Wilbur's special friends, but none of them ever took the place of Charlotte.
So, what can we learn from Charlotte's Web? Well, we know that it is a story about a friendship, not an ordinary one, but a very special friendship. And so I'd like to ask you, I'd like to ask the children, I'd like to ask people in the congregation, do you have a friend like Charlotte? Do you have someone you know who loves you, not because you're smart, or cute, or good in sports, or popular, but just because you're you? Do you know someone who loves you enough to die for you? Well, the answer to these questions is yes, because you have a friend in Jesus. Charlotte, in some ways, reminds me of Jesus. Did you notice how at first Wilbur didn't see Charlotte at all? He just heard her voice. And that wasn't surprising because spiders often go unseen unless you look hard to see them. And the same is true of Jesus. First, we hear his voice. And as in the case of Wilbur, we most often become aware of him when we need him. At first, Wilbur needed a friend because he was lonely. But then, later, Wilbur needed more than that. Wilbur needed to be saved, to be rescued. And Charlotte was there for him. Or, as we like to say, Charlotte had his back. When we are lonely and call out for someone, Jesus will befriend us. And the way that he befriends us is not all that different, I don't think, from the way that Charlotte befriended Wilbur. She saw in him things that he would never have seen in himself. She saw, for example, that he was some pig. A pig to get excited about. Someone worthy enough for whom to die. She saw Wilbur as humble, even though he himself probably didn't realize that he was. She saw that he was radiant, despite the fact that he may have thought he was dull. But somehow, Wilbur trusted Charlotte, which meant that he could believe in what she saw in him. And when he understands who Charlotte thought he was, then Wilbur changes. She turned him into some pig. She gave him courage, plain and simply. And subsequently, Wilbur became a hero of sorts, refusing to leave Charlotte's egg sack stranded at the fairgrounds. And instead, he nobly carried them all the way back to the Zuckerman barn in his snout, where Charlotte's 514 baby spiders came to life. Charlotte's love changed Wilbur forever. Jesus sees a goodness in us that we can never, ever see in ourselves. And Jesus saves us by loving us unconditionally. Jesus loves us enough to die for us, and it's that love, it's his love that gives us courage and makes us bold enough to be able to do things that matter, really matter. Jesus believed in his disciples, so much so that they could believe in themselves, and in so doing, they were empowered to feed Jesus' lambs and his sheep with a love that can never be described. Jesus believes in you, in each one of you children, and in all of us. Jesus believes that you are strong enough and brave enough and generous enough and kind enough to do most wonderful things. So let yourself believe in that love. Let yourself believe in him, and he will become for you quite a friend. What a friend we have in Jesus. I'm going to close by telling you a true story about a man named Joe. Joe lived in Ireland, and when he was 25 years old, he fell in love. The woman he loved loved him back, and the two of them excitedly prepared for their wedding. But the day before the ceremony was to take place, she drowned. She drowned in an accident, and Joe was heartbroken, and in his grief, he resolved to begin a whole new life and to start over. And so with that, he moved to Canada. And wonder of wonders, he fell in love there, something he would have thought impossible. And he proposed to her, and she said yes. And then one fateful day, she became very, very sick and died shortly thereafter. Can you imagine how Joe would have felt? Like Wilbur, I am guessing that at that time he would have so needed a friend. And guess what? Jesus said that he'd be Joe's friend. And so that's exactly what he did become, Joe's friend. Joe never did marry, but he began preaching in the Baptist church. And he spent the rest of his life helping the less fortunate, spreading to them the love and the compassion that was inside him from Jesus. And what a difference he made. When Joe died, the people of Port Hope, Ontario, Canada, actually erected a monument as a tribute to all the lives he had uplifted. And there is a marker there today with which to remember him. But beyond that, Joe himself left us with an immortal poem. Immortal means something that will live forever, that he'd written actually for his mother as she lay dying. She was in Ireland, he was in Canada, and could not be with her. But the words that he wrote to her in poem form are words you know and will recognize. In fact, we are going to sing them now. If you turn to number 526 in the red hymnal, What a Friend We Have in Jesus.